So, welcome back, folks. We can now begin our discussion on food. Are you eating the right foods? That's a question that we can reflect on for a moment. And part of the topic that we had for today was are you committing any food crimes against your body? Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with just kind of getting a little perspective of food. So, food is in many ways, maybe, I don't know if it's any more essential than air or light because the body needs a combination of different things to operate. But certainly, food is a big, big factor for our survival, for giving life to ourselves. So, food actually is life source. It is life source. When we go into a grocery store, we go into a supermarket, and we see that it is a large space full of food. It is actually a large space full of life source. And every item in the grocery store is a, a, a life source that can potentially merge with your life source. And the way that, you know, the, the Supreme has designed this is that all life comes from other life. For a lion to live, a lion has to eat a gazelle, an animal that was once alive. That gazelle will die so that that lion can live. And likewise, when we are vegetarian, we also we may not be eating live animals, but we are eating live vegetables. And so those vegetables also end up being sacrificed for us to live. So all life comes from other life. It's just a fact of our reality. And while we're on that note, that's why it's often, important to ask ourselves, well, can I choose the life forms that have the least developed form of consciousness? So a cow, for example, it has a lot of consciousness. It's a live being, vibrant being that is also a sacred animal in in different cultures. It cries when it's young or being, brutalized. It um it uh it fights for its life. It's a developed form of consciousness compared to, say, a potato. A potato, it doesn't have a nervous system. It is alive, it has consciousness, but it's a least developed form. It's less developed. And so if we eat something like that, then we cause less pain. But so therefore, that's important to consider, as we reflect on food. And now that we know that our food is a life source, we should choose the foods that give the most life and the foods that are the most alive, right? So, for example, if we're eating a cooked animal, yes, maybe that animal is not 100% dead, right? Because it is, I mean, it's dead, but part of its flesh or something might still have some. It might be alive to some extent, but it is certainly on a faster route toward decay. Whereas, yes, a tomato is alive and it's also slowly getting toward its um, moment of decay, just like us. Every year that we get older, we're also moving toward this final state where the body will be completely worn out and it will be decaying. But we want to try to eat the things that are in their prime, eat the things that are in their prime time of life. So that's why we would eat a fresh salad, a fresh tomato, um, while it is still nice and juicy and alive and glowing. So many other foods, we have to cook them. We have to cook them to make them come alive. They have to be cooked. They have to go through a whole process for the food to, look good, smell good, taste good. In its natural state, though, it wouldn't have any of those qualities. So it's always better to eat things that require less amount of work for them to be already, delicious and healthy and nutritious and give you energy. Because when we say that the foods are life sources, because they're supposed to give you energy. The body is it can be viewed in many ways, like it is a life form that in order to live it needs other life forms, or it is like a machine that needs fuel in order to function properly, to run properly. So we have to be selective when it comes to food. We're very selective in other aspects. We're selective with what clothes we put on our body. We're selective with the people that we allow to physically be intimate with our bodies. And we're selective about many other things in life. But sometimes it seems like, at least myself and most people, we've committed what I'm calling food crimes against the body, where we're just putting anything in the body, anything at all, anything that tastes good. We are driven more by the instant gratification of food rather than the um, the 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 sort of scientific selection of what foods are going to give me the most energy, are going to make my life, are going to enhance my life. And I am talking about food in the context of the 7 secrets of success that we've been talking about. Well, this is secret number 6. The fact that, and it's kind of a no brainer, but yet it's the easiest one to forget, that if you want to be successful in life, well, you need to be if you want to be the best car on the car in the race, then, you need to put the best fuel in that car. And if you want to be the best body, the best person, because we need the body. Without the body, the mind would disappear. The mind needs a body so that it can express itself. So therefore, the body is super important. It's not the most important in terms of, body, mind, and soul, but it is pretty important. And so very important. And so then to be successful in life, you have to feed the body the right nutrients. And so I definitely encourage you to do your research on the best foods to eat. And different scientists and doctors say different things. Some people, and I encourage you to look up the foods that give you the most energy, because I'm speaking in the context of being successful in life. So to be successful, you're going to need energy, right? You can't be tired and try and achieve your goals. You can't have physical disease and problems and try to be successful with your goals. What happens with food is that when it enters the body, suddenly now the body has to focus on it. It has to process it. That's why the digestive system, it 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 requires a lot of energy. There's a lot of heat in the abdominal area, precisely because that heat is used to process those nutrients, that the food that has come in. So all of the energy is going to go toward that, which means that you won't have energy to expend for your projects and your goals and for other things that you want to do. So then, that's why it's helpful to choose food that is going to be easy on the digestive system. Light foods, natural foods that are easy to process. If we're eating the big, uh, things that require a lot of cooking, all the processed food and the meats and things like that, that's harder on the digestion. and more energy is going to go to processing that. So sometimes we're even eating a lot of sugary things to get energy, right? But we quickly find out that now you have a sugar crash, and it's because the body is trying to process that, and it has depleted you of the energy that you would like. So um, we have to so then as you do your research for the best foods that give you energy, you have to also remember this secret of success regarding food, to always be balanced in that. Balanced in the sense that you don't want to overeat. Just because you're eating the best life forms doesn't mean that you want to overeat them, because again, that's not balance. Your energy is going to go, now it's going to be misused. Okay. So you want to be balanced in terms of don't eat if you're already full. It's, if you're full, give it a break. Do you have to take an additional meal, or does it have, we like to think that, we need to have three full meals that are nice, big, and lofty. That's not always the case. You can experiment with your body and see how much intake do I really need per day. Scientists will give you an amount of calories you should hit. They will give you good ideas, and you should explore them, but it is actually a test. It's like, for example, if I tell you, hey, you should date this person, he's awesome or she's awesome. They have a PhD and they have a great job or whatever is attractive. And you say, okay, well, let me try it. So you date that person, you spend some time with that person, and then you'll see if that person is for you. Same thing with all the recommendations for people's dietary recommendations. Some scientists will say you should have chia seeds for energy. You should have leafy vegetables for energy. You should have um, uh, coconut oil and this and that. It's all about experimentation. And it really is as simple as, let me eat something and see how I feel. If after eating something, suddenly I'm tired, okay, remember that, write it down. But when I eat this, I feel like I have energy. My mind is light. I can do things. Okay, write that down. So these are the foods then that give me energy. So there is there is I want to discuss actually the energetic vibrations of food. So I think I'm going to pause here and just kind of see how we're doing in the chat, see what comments have come through, and then I'm going to give some recommendations uh, after that. Okay, let's see. So I have Brother Hitendra here. He says, Namaskar from West Point. Thank you for signing the attendance sheet so we can keep in contact. Thank you, brother. Raw frugivore here. Okay. Eat like a gorilla, fruits, nuts, seeds, berries, greens, some veggies, melons, and squash. Sounds great. So, Hitendra, health is wealth, and it takes 1 ounce of raw broccoli to digest 10 ounces of raw broccoli. It takes 3 ounces of cooked beef to digest 1 ounce of cooked beef. Okay, interesting. I see here that you eat raw foods. And I think most scientists will tell you that if you want energy, you need to be consuming the foods that are the most natural, in their most natural state. Hence why having a nice dose of raw foods in your intake is likely to give you a lot of energy. Okay? So eating salads and fruits, all the things that he mentioned, all the vegetables that he mentioned, if they can be the least cooked, the better. Okay, think of it's also interesting just to note, what is natural. There's always something that is more more natural for a certain organism. Like, for example, uh when I think of a lion has claws, has the canine teeth, and it's actually designed to puncture flesh, you know, to to grab let's say a gazelle that's in the heat of the moment, running as fast as it can. The lion's aptitude is that it can actually jump on it and pierce it and knock it down with its jaw and bite into its flesh raw. None of us can do any of that at all. You can't go up to a cow and just dig your nails into it and start eating it raw. It's impossible. You don't have the strength, you don't have the teeth, you don't have the claws for that. Same thing with chicken that's floating around. But other animals do have that natural tendency, proclivity for that, but we don't. However, you can walk up to a tree and just pick a mango and just dig your teeth into it and start eating it. You know, you may then want to peel the skin, but you certainly could do that. You could eat an apple without needing to peel it. You can eat a pear without needing to peel it, and also some vegetables. You can just start to eat them raw. So it shows that we are more designed toward those foods. Okay. Thank you. Peggy says, I seem to do best with raw food. Excellent. I agree. And again, these foods, they're most alive, right? We're just going to think of the practical aspect that those foods, if they are fully alive in their raw state, then they're going to give you more life, make you more fully alive. Because, like we said earlier, food should be perceived as life sources. So we want them to be in their most primal state of life so that our lives will be improved. All right. Um, you know, anyways, I was going to give another example about animals, but so let's go ahead and continue. Okay, Hitendra, thanks for letting us know. Much love to you as well. I now want to touch base on just another point. So as yogis, we in our tantric philosophy, yogis have seen that there are three types of vibrations in the universe that are most prominent. There is, and we call those the three gunas. And if you want to learn more about this, you could watch my video, The Tantric Theory of Creation, at my YouTube channel, Tantra Thoughts. So there are these three energy forms. One of them is tamaguna, one of them is rajaguna, the other one is sattvaguna. Our mind is also somewhat can be viewed in these three forms. For example, all of our samskaras, the emotions that come in and out that plague us, uh, all of those things, the reactions from past actions, those are stored in one part of our mind, in the chitta. That's kind of like the most tamasic, and what tamasic means is static, what raja means is mutative, and what sattva means is sentient. So that part is kind of like the part of the mind that we don't like so much, and so that's kind of like the tamasic part. But then there's a part of our mind that is the doer, the ego that wants to do things. So that's the mutative one, that's the active one. I should say active. So that's the Rajasic part of our mind, when we want to do, when we're with the ego. And then there's the sentient, or the sattvic, and that would be the part of our mind that can just be consciousness, right? You have that thought in your mind, I exist, nothing more, nothing less. So that is the most sattvic thought you can have. It's the sattvic part of the mind. It's where, when we meditate, we want to be. Sometimes we sit for meditation, we're in this tamasic part where all the thoughts are busy, but then the doer takes place, the ego comes and says, no, we're going to meditate. All right, let's do this. Now we're in this active state of doing, and then you want to let go of that and just be. Now you're in the sattvic part of your mind. So just like that, you can notice this everywhere. There are some leaders that are more tamasic, some leaders more sattvic. Clearly a leader like Donald Trump I would consider a very tamasic figure. very divisive, very vulgar, cruel, incites selfish, you know, as opposed to a leader like, let's say, the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is a spiritual leader, is encouraging people to become one with the universe. Um, you know what I mean? And then there could be very Rajasic leaders, like leaders that move you, that are trying to accomplish things, that are trying to get things done. You know, um, like social revolutionaries. But even social revolutionaries can also be very sattvic as well. So so you see, we anything that you mention, we can find these three aspects of them. Okay. And so foods are also ascribed those qualities. There's Thomasic food, Rajasic food, and Sattvic food. So Thomasic foods are the foods that are decaying, deteriorating. So you wouldn't want to eat anything that is what word am I looking for? Expired, stale. Okay, they're on their way out. Thomasic foods also would be the foods that might be good for the body, but may or may not be good for the mind. Like meat. Some people will tell you meat is good for the body. It gives you protein. There might be some instances for that. Sometimes a doctor might prescribe that you have to have a certain meat. Well, then in those cases, you need to take those meats for your survival. But it may not be good for your mind. Okay. You can test that out too. Go for a week without meat. How do you feel mentally? Do you feel more peaceful? Maybe. Less stressed? Maybe. Okay. Because the foods they carry vibration with them. A lot of the meat that we eat, it comes from from a tortured animal as well. How do you think that's going to play into your vibration? It's like you can't deny these things. You have this negative vibration comes close to a positive vibration, let's say. It's going to have to be neutralized in some way. So then we have the Rajasic foods, the ones that give you and so by the way, what are the Tamasic foods that the yogis have identified? um Meat, onions, garlics, mushrooms, eggs, uh alcohol, any kind of intoxicant. Okay, it's all experimentation. If you try a week without these foods, you have to just test, like, do how do I feel? If you should decide, okay, I'm going to go 1 week without garlic, you have to test to see how what effect it plays on you. Okay, or if you go 1 week without any of those foods that I mentioned, you have to see how your life changes. And then we have Rajasic foods. Rajasic foods are the foods that give you a rush of energy, like coffee, like chocolate. And when I said you should consume foods that give you energy, I didn't mean coffee, because that's a clear stimulant. Okay, that doesn't count. uh, that you can use as a tool. Coffee helps me a lot sometimes when if I have a lot of papers to grade. Sometimes, okay, I'll drink a cup of coffee and boom, it just helps me get right through that. Okay. So then the sattvic foods, the foods that are good for the body and good for the mind, according to the yogis. And the sattvic foods are your vegetables, all the vegetables, all the fruits, all the natural foods, the grains, um, even milk products are in this category. Although I understand if you might consider milk product tamasic because of how that milk was, um, you know, extricated from the cow. So, but these sattvic foods have a purpose. So the way to evaluate which one is for you is you need to determine what is it that you want to accomplish in your life. If what you want to accomplish in your life is, let's say you want to be a bodybuilder, you want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, then maybe you need to take meat. Although some of the strongest bodybuilders in the world are actually vegan, and that's a fun thing to learn. You can look that up on YouTube. The strongest man in the world, I forget his name, he's vegan. Some of the most powerful athletes that we know, like Serena Williams, they're vegan. So, but I suppose if you wanted to be a bodybuilder, then maybe for you, you might want to choose. Uh, you may still want to eat meat. So you see, then you're eating something with a goal in mind, and that's good. If your goal is to be very spiritual, is to become the Buddha, then you should eat the foods that lead to that. You should eat then for what we call the sattvic foods. It's important to be intentional, to do the research, right? To say, I have a goal in life. My goal is to have peace. My goal is to become the Buddha. My goal is whatever it is, to be a great artist. So then, if you want to be a great artist, you need creativity. Your mind has to be very vibrant. So then, eat the foods that are good for the body and the mind. Don't eat the foods that could have an effect on the mind, like alcohol. Alcohol has a clear effect on the mind. Um, Many foods have different effects on the mind that we don't realize. Okay, and and sometimes too, a good way to test is like what the food wants to what your body wants to immediately expel. Like when you take garlic, immediately you start to smell like garlic. I used to have my students; they would come into my class. I used to have a student who was a wonderful. He was a wonderful young man. He really was. He had some sort of mental disability, but he was such a sweet boy. But he always reeked of garlic. I would walk past him, and it would just come from the crown of his head. It would just shoot out, and it just made me wonder. How much garlic he was consuming. And so that's not a good sign. The food that you eat shouldn't reek. Your body shouldn't be desperately trying to expel it like that. Like when you eat an onion, it's all in your breath. You don't want to kiss anybody after you've eaten some raw onions. So there's kind of like little superficial signs like that also can kind of point to what is good for you to take or not. Okay, but um, be intentional with what you eat for the goal of your life that you have in mind. That's what I would recommend. Okay, let's go ahead and take some comments and then we will. Oh, last recommendation that I want to give you. It is always overwhelming to make a big change. And sometimes our dietary habits are so ingrained that to change anything, it's a big deal. Okay, it's a big deal. Um, that can also be a sign of the food that we eat. You know, for some people, they have a very lethargic energy. I'm kind of jumping to another topic now, but there are some people who, for example, if I invite them to this online meditation, it's just really difficult to make the commitment, like they have to, God, it's like they have to plan way in advance to come to this. Okay. It it just seems like such a big task. And likewise, a lot of times when we're trying to make changes in our life, they seem like monumental things that we need to do in order to make the change, you know? Um, but a lot of that is in the mind. You just have to start doing it. You just have to show up, for example, to this. But because our energy is so low, our vibration is so low, our mind is so troubled, we feel like it's a bigger deal. Oh yeah, I'll meditate. I want to meditate. But I just, it's just gonna take me so long to. I mean, I want to do it, but I just kind of need to be in the right space of mind, the right time and place. I mean, it just seems overly complicated. A lot of times we are afraid to make big changes in our life because they appear to be too overly complicated, but that's not true. That's just how you see it. There are other people doing that. They just do it. Why is that? One thing that could be getting in the way is what you're eating. You might be eating things that fog your mind, cloud your mind, stall your energy. Okay? So maybe that will be a good result of eating lighter, better foods that you're able to accomplish your goals better with the right fuel. So let me give you a little tip because it can seem like a big deal to change something regarding diet. I'll give you this tip. Start with just changing one meal of your day, just one. So, for example, if you want to start eating healthier, then go ahead and say, from now on, I will always have a healthy breakfast. Lunch, I'll eat whatever I can. Dinner, I'll eat whatever I can. But breakfast is going to be 100% healthy. Okay? Or another simple change, like every day I'm going to eat one apple. That's how I'm going to start. Every day, no matter what, one apple. And then every time I eat that apple, I will know I am making a healthy choice for my body. And I can say that I am a healthy eater because every day I take one apple. So there could be a small thing that you do as that you want to do consistently. And that's going to make a big difference. That is going to help you to start making some more positive dietary choices. Okay, so let's take a look at some comments that we have. We have Alexandra who says, God bless you. God bless you, my dear sister. Thank you for being here. And Alicia says, do you know what happens when there is a sensitivity like gluten? Okay. So there are some specific things, right? Everybody is different. Everybody is different. We have different allergies, different, even different palates, different tastes. Gluten has a different effect on people. More research is being done on foods all the time to determine how people process them. Okay, the body, I think, is very, very sort of kind of godly in the sense that it's willing to just take anything sometimes. You can put anything in the body and it'll do its best to digest it for you. That's why it's easy to abuse. So I would say that if you have a sensitivity to something like gluten, that you consult a doctor and a nutritionist in order to help you figure out what are the best dietary choices for yourself. And here we have Karen who says, consider switching to a nut flour like almond or other types of gluten-free flour to replace gluten-containing grains. Okay. I love people who research their foods. Some people hate that. Some people hate when they go to the grocery store and they see that some fool is in the aisle reading ingredients. I think that's kind of an old school mentality, but it's actually very important. Jayati says, when I was in Mexico, I noticed how light I felt after eating fresh, non-processed foods for 2 months. Everything that we ate, were harvested and sold locally. When we would go out, we pick fruits from trees. That sounds amazing. I'm so glad you had that experience. And it's nice that you felt light. That's the whole thing. That's the point is you have to test it. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have some kind of food journal and write down the foods and the dietary choices um, that make you feel really good. Sometimes when we're at retreats, we have a really fabulous time. We spend a week together or a weekend together. We have a great time. I think, especially the one with the, let's say, over a week, I think part of what helps is that at a retreat, especially at our retreats, we're careful with the diets, right? We make sure everybody is eating a sattvic diet, for example. And so maybe that's one thing that contributes toward the overall bliss of the retreat is that also people are eating foods that contribute toward, let's say, more bliss. Okay. So Jayati, I'm glad you had that experience. Christina says, for me, majority of raw, live tropical food works best. But I make sure to also enjoy my food because joy is a large factor in health. Uh, yes. Okay. That's nice. All right, that you know that about yourself. If you had an instruction manual for yourself, I also recommend that you do that. Create an instructional manual for Christina. Create an instructional manual for Alicia. And in that manual, it will say all of the right, conditions for this beautiful machine, this sacred machine to operate well, as well as mind and soul. Um, and then give that instructions manual to your partner. Sweetheart, if you want to learn how to operate me or deal with me or want to learn my best functions, read my manual. And in that manual can include your best foods for you. Okay, Karen says maca, goji berries, camu, and kava are great sources of energy. Yes, awesome. Jayati says the eating the right type of food and healthy can help create a smooth flow for both body and mind. Also, knowing where your food comes from can give you off good vibrations. That's definitely very important. Um, Kijan, bro, I was just laying down because I went to bed late last night, but I was checking the weather on Facebook. My phone saw your message and said, okay, got up and started meditating with you and everyone here. I'm thankful to myself, you and everyone here that I did. All right, brother Kijan, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. How about we all send brother Kijan some hearts? Everybody, please join me. I can't do it actually. I totally would if I could. Can you please just put some hearts in there for Kijan, just to welcome him, and let those hearts be enough love that they'll continue to nourish him throughout his weekend. Okay? Welcome, brother. Karen says, there's the hearts from Karen. Thank you, Karen. That's for Kijan. Karen says, I'm that fool in the aisle reading the reading the ingredients. Me too. Okay. And in Latin American culture, uh, people they don't like that, especially old school Latin Americans. All right. Ritva says, I heard that eating 30 whole foods a week is very healthy, so I try to add some more vegetables and fruits every week. More variation. It's easy to eat the same thing all the time. That sounds great. It's so nice to be intentional with food. It's nice to be somewhat scientific, right? Like every day, I, mm, every day, I add something. I add something. So if, for example, you say that eating 30 whole foods a week is good, so you check it off. Okay, I had an apple check. I had this check. I had that check until I reached 30. And when I've met my 30, I've checked it off. I know I've been healthy this week. So it's really good to be scientific like that. Keep track. Be data driven. Be data driven. Um, and then analyze that data over time, right? So I started this month doing this. Um, keep the data going. This week I only had 20 whole foods. That week I had 10. Then I got to 30 this week. So then now you can find also correlations with other things happening in your life too, based on that data. So thank you for sharing that, Ritva. And Karen says, I resemble that remark. Alicia says, cutting refined sugar has really made a difference in my energy level. Yeah, me too, Alicia. I also don't take hardly any energy. Sugar. I eat sugar once a month, actually. I'll take sugar on special occasions, like um, my mother's birthday, um, a birthday, a special holiday in my wife's culture. Oh, but only just about once a month. Okay. And then on that day I'll enjoy a nice some sugar. Okay. um, Christina says, "Peace, everyone. I've got to attend class. Thanks for coming, Christina." Karen sent the hearts. Ritva sent the hearts. Peggy sent the hearts. Andra sent the hearts. All right. Thank you, everybody. And Alicia says, "I read ingredients too." Thank you, Jayati, for those beautiful hearts for Kijan. All right. I have to watch for food coloring too. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks. Let's go ahead and close. All right. Before I go, I'm going to put this little ticker here. Make sure that you subscribe to our Vistara Circle YouTube channel on YouTube and join our Facebook group. Okay. All right. So we will close. Thank you for joining me today. I love you very much. I encourage you to attain more success in life by eating the foods that can lead you to success. Okay. Namaskar, everybody. Take care.